Welcome to the SBR NHL Play of the Day video. It's the SBR NHL Double Play presented by SportsbookReview.com for Tuesday, November 19th. I'm Ian Cameron, joined by Adam Boothe, and we're here 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time, bringing you our top NHL plays on the day's card. And we like these days because we've got lots to choose from, and we've got 13 big games on tap on this Tuesday.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it too,
Adam. The night before, we have a 2-game card Sunday, a 2-game card Monday, and it's like Monday night. Look over the next day's stuff. 13. I was about to drop an F-bomb. That's how pumped I get. But that's how exciting it is. It's not always the best with the scheduling, but at least on these Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays, we have plenty of opportunities. So completely agree with you there, man.
Yeah, we sure do, and we've got a bunch of games to choose from, a lot of interesting games on the card, and I'm going to start with my play, and Adam insisted because he says there's a lot we want to discuss. There's a lot of interesting things to discuss with the game I selected for my play of the day. It's the New York Islanders taking on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Again, SBRodds.com. Should be using SBRodds.com every day. Get the best line and best price available with all of your wagers on a daily basis. Make sure you're checking that site out, SBRodds.com, which currently, if you are there, you will see that Pittsburgh is about a minus 130 home favorite, minus 135 in some spots, total 5.5, shaded to the under here at about minus 115. And look, we know how good the New York Islanders have been. What is it now? It's a 14-game point streak for this hockey team, 13-0-1 in their last 14 games. Well, guess who that one came against? The Pittsburgh Penguins. The New York Islanders, that one loss during that time came against this Pittsburgh Penguins team. And you got to love the way the New York Islanders, though, have played in those 14 games. What gives me the confidence, as you can clearly see on the bottom of the screen, I'm backing them tonight. What gives me the confidence to back them tonight as short road underdogs against Pittsburgh tonight is they found ways to win in various ways. They've gotten out in front early, held on to leads, and cruised to victory. They've also shown the ability to fall behind early in a game, pick themselves up, rally from behind, and find ways to come back and win games. Look no further than Philadelphia over the weekend for this New York Islanders team, where it looked like they were surely going to go down to defeat in that game, but rallied in the third period and came back to beat the Philadelphia Flyers in that game. So again, Barry Trotz's team, my biggest concern coming into the season with them was if they get behind in games, where's their offense to get them back into a game? Mm-hmm. A team that relies so much on keeping games close, playing from ahead as opposed to playing from behind. With a solid defense, solid goaltending, Varlamov and Greiss, that combination's been pretty good most of the year. But now all of a sudden you're seeing this team score some goals and have that ability that, hey, if we're down a goal or two, in the second or third period, we can come back and still maybe win this hockey game. And they've shown that ability in recent games. But what I like about this spot is we got play on for the Islanders, in my opinion, here, because, this is not your normal regular season loss that you're trying to avenge. There's, I think, a little bit more pep in your step and adrenaline when you get to play Pittsburgh again for this Islanders team, because it's not just that Pittsburgh snapped that, 10 or 11 game winning streak for the Islanders at the time. It's the fashion they snapped it in. Like the Islanders had a 3-0 lead going into the third period of that Pittsburgh game, and the Penguins rallied from behind to come back and win 4-3 in overtime. That loss did not sit well, losing it in that fashion, a loss that you don't expect the Islanders to lose in that fashion. They're supposed to be able to protect leads with that solid defense that they've had for the last couple of years under Barry Trotz. The defense eluded them that day. So I think they come in focused. And look, I'm not willing to give any team credit for beating up the sad sack Toronto Maple Leafs these days. And that's the Pittsburgh Penguins right now. Look, we saw what happened Saturday night. They ran the putrid Leafs right out of the rink. It was an embarrassing performance from Toronto, and give Pittsburgh credit. They were dominant in that game, but I think they're a little overvalued now coming off a loss that I don't give them too much credit for, because Toronto is just in a world of hurt right now. They're banged up. They've got Marner out, Kerfoot out. Trevor Moore left that game due to there's a banged up team struggling with their confidence. So I'm not giving Pittsburgh all the credit.
Well, and Anderson wasn't in that either, was he?
No, it was Kaskasuo. You're right, backup goalie.
One of my friends who hates Leafs goes, I actually feel sorry for the Leafs goalie right now. That's how bad it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and Kaskasuo was in that, the Finn making his NHL debut for the Leafs in that game. And that's pathetic, by the way. The Leafs hung that guy out to dry. That's a guy making his NHL debut, and you're going to play like that? Bunch of Donies in front of him at the defensive end of the ice. Absolutely brutal from them. So give Pittsburgh credit. I mean, no Sidney Crosby, no Patrick Hornquist, no who's the other one I'm trying to think now is injured. Crosby, Hornquist, Letang, of course, on the blue line.
Yeah.
And now Nick Bjugstad may not play tonight as well. He's questionable. So this is a really short-handed Pittsburgh team. They beat a bad Toronto team that's struggling right now. I give them, okay, good for them. See if we can do it again now against a New York Islanders team that I think comes in with a chip on their shoulder. They know their last loss. Their only loss in what seems like the last month came against Pittsburgh, and they blew a lead in that game in the third period. I think the Islanders come in focused, ready to go. I think Pittsburgh a little overvalued a little bit after beating Toronto. Let's not forget the night before they lost to New Jersey, without all those guys in the lineup, bad New Jersey team. So this has been an up and down Pittsburgh team. They're still trying to gel with all these injuries that they're going through. And I think they catch the Islanders on a bad night here, this Pittsburgh team. So give me the New York Islanders here, plus 115. Nice underdog price. You can still get plus 110 right now in most spots, but I like the Islanders to get the job done.
Ian, I'm on it as well. I got them at the exact same price, and I've just got a few points to make because it was one of the plays I considered for my play of the day as well. We haven't been on the same play for a play of the day, but this one came pretty close. You'll remember on November 7th, the Islanders were my play of the day hosting the Penguins. After 2 periods, I was thinking...
Oh, that's right. That was your POD that day, the game they blew against Pittsburgh. Oh, shit.
Yeah, that's right. And
about that.
Yeah, so after 2 periods, I was thinking... Oh, man, I looked at it well. I love the numbers coming in for the Islanders. We're in great position. I'll put on another game now and, of course, see that one slip away in overtime. But I agree with a lot of the points you made. The Toronto game, for me, was an example of the dam bursting for the Penguins. I read an article this morning from The Athletic. I have to say they write a lot of good hockey content over there. I'm sure a few of the guys in the chat have subscriptions there. But I read an article yesterday talking about the Penguins not being a top 5 caliber team in anyone's power rankings. However, if you analyze games based on expected goals, they are the best in the league. And that is a metric I look at. And so I have been on the Penguins several games. I was on the Moneyline and Puckline against the Leafs. Yeah, I mean, for how they've been playing recently, you would say that's probably a risky bet. But that was just the dam breaking finally, and against a very susceptible, as you said, rookie start. It was just a lot of factors that made the stars align for that Puckline play to come in. But the Islanders are the better team still, and this isn't a good spot for Pittsburgh as far as their health of the roster. You could say they, if they were up to like a 1.9 or 1.95, sorry, minus 105, minus 110. If they were up there, you could say, yeah, if they were sitting around there, you could say, well, I might consider them here, like they've got maybe some better all-stars. Murray's not playing too badly. Malkin, has incredible numbers when Crosby's out. You can make an argument, but I have the Islanders at, what was it? I think it was 46% to win this game. I think that's on the low side, and which is why it wasn't my play of the day, because I need a 50% for my play of the day. But I have it at the score projection at 4-2 New York Islanders. So I'm also on the Islanders team total over, and I'm on the over 5.5 because I still think Pittsburgh could put up a couple. It's hard to shut out anybody in this league. Shutouts happen, 10 to 12% of games. It's very low. So I still think Pittsburgh can get a couple in on the Islanders. But New York is the play here today. And so for me, it was Islanders or nothing. And I was glad to see you select them as the play of the day because it is a revenge spot. It was obviously on their minds. It broke their streak. But, the Islanders, it's less about the streak and more about, let's keep the momentum going. Yeah. And I know a couple weeks ago we talked about, I think you took the Panthers 2 days after the Islanders streak broke. And it was an angle that isn't a poor one, which is, they might be a little bit lackadaisical coming into the next one now that the streak is over. And what they've proved us wrong with that. They've now won 3 straight against division opponents two division opponents. But they have been very good since that loss to Pittsburgh. So you say one bad period really over the last 4 or 5 games again. So it's not Pittsburgh can't win, but I'm not paying chalk for a Penguins team that is suffering from injuries and, the Islanders aren't on a back-to-back. This is like a back-to-back pricing for me, almost like a 2.1, 2.2 on a better team. It's just the fact that the name value isn't quite there on the Islanders.
One last thing about the Islanders, too, and we'll get to your play right after, is the Islanders, too, they're looking to match a tie a franchise best point streak ever. Most consecutive games they've had a point. So that's incentive. It's not just the avenging a loss. That doesn't matter a whole lot to me. It's how you lose to the team that previous game. It's the way they lost that game.
Yeah.
Like they had it. That's extra. That gets you really going for the next game, knowing that we had this team beaten, 3-0 up in the third period, and we let them off the mat. And I think they come out here with a nice victory tonight, the New York Islanders. And put this price in comparison. Pittsburgh was laying -130. At home on Saturday night against Toronto, the same price they're laying here tonight against the Islanders. Which team's better right now, Islanders or Toronto? Which team would you rather have right now? Current form-wise, it's the Islanders. There's no question about that. So to me, it's a little bit of a pricing. Something's out of whack pricing-wise.
It was 5-4 to the. It was 5-4 to the Islanders against the Leafs, but 2 of those goals were sort of in whatever you would call garbage time in hockey, I guess, where it was 5-2 off an empty net, I think, or something like that, and then the Islanders sort of were just caught coasting for like the last minute and a half, and it looked close on the scoreboard, but it was not. It was the Islanders taking care of business for most of that. And I was going to say, I think they're doing a home and home this week, aren't they? So Pittsburgh's back in New York for the next one. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it's a home and home. You're right. They're in Long Island or
just
Brooklyn.
Keep in mind that
one of those places. Yeah.
The outcome, even if the Islanders drop tonight, you might get a great price on them in the next one. So don't be afraid to keep going to a better team with better, they're whatever. We've talked about it.
That's not a bad idea. I will say that one, but then we'll get to your play is that if they lose tonight, the Islanders, I might come back with them again at home. It won't be as good of a price. I wanted to jump on this price and this first chance to get at Pittsburgh since the time they lost to them and blew that third period lead. I do think win or lose, you're going to get a good effort tonight from the road team.
Agreed.
All right, Adam, what do you got?
Yeah, so I'm going to another intriguing matchup. This is we got the the defending Stanley Cup champs hosting the Tampa Bay Lightning, and this is again the Blues are off. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They dropped a very ugly one to the Ducks on Saturday. Was it Saturday or Friday? No, it was Saturday. And then they lost to Columbus at Columbus on Friday. And then Arizona came in off a back-to-back in Washington and beat them. So they've had 3 games in a row last week where you say they probably should get two of three of those. But we see this. Teams lose focus. Tarasenko's been out for a little while now. That can have a wear on their goal-scoring ability. But in the first 2, they were definitely in the game, but they looked – I commented to Mr. Puckline on Twitter that Columbus was all over. I was on Columbus on Friday, so I was glad to see it, but St. Louis looked slow. They looked completely like they weren't in the game. Columbus had to tie it late and then, to force overtime and won in overtime. But in the overtime period, St. Louis had a 4-on-3 power play. They take a too many men penalty in overtime. You only have to put 4 guys out there. This is really inexcusable. The Blue Jackets threw everybody in front of every puck they could on that penalty kill. The Blues take a too many men penalty, and the Blue Jackets capitalize on their ensuing power play a couple minutes later. The Blue Jackets played like I said this to Puckline. They played like they were in Game 7 of a playoff series. It meant so much more to them. You could just tell by how they were playing on the ice, completely outchancing St. Louis. And then, I had the Blues against Anaheim, coming home back-to-back, not out drinking the night before. It's a good maybe excuse to catch a kind of a poor Ducks team. And again, the brief periods I saw of St. Louis, they were okay. It wasn't as one-sided as the previous night, but they did look poor. So now we're seeing them as, even though they're atop, the Western standings or number 2 or something like that, they are priced as a dog against Tampa because Tampa's won, 4 of the last 5 or 6 of the last 8 or whatever it is. And we also saw Tampa's offense start to have a resurgence recently. Now, Tampa's off a pretty interesting letdown spot against the Jets, who people who are one of the most profitable teams on the season, by the way. And so they stomped the Rangers 9-3. Then they lose to the Jets the next night or 2 nights later. So Tampa off a loss. That trend, the past couple years has been okay. But this year, Tampa's numbers are not that great. St. Louis is nothing to brag about, but we have an overvalued Tampa Bay coming into St. Louis, where I have the Blues, at 52% or something, and yet Tampa's priced at like 55. And this is in my view, at worst, we should be seeing a 1.9 or minus 110 each way here. We see teams when they sort of hit a 3-game losing streak. It's like a wake-up call generally with some of these good teams where it's, okay, it's gone too far. We need to come into the next game ready. We saw that with the Blues against the Avalanche early. It was either earlier in November or late October where the Avs came to town.
Game.
Yeah,
I was on the Avs just because they were red hot. I was crashing repeatedly with them, and I knew that the spot favored St. Louis that night. It was the end of the road.
But the price didn't. The price was like 1 point. It was like minus 130, minus 135, and you're saying St. Louis. And then after that game, I think St. Louis, won 7 straight or something. Like then they went on a nice little run there. But this is how it works: is these sort of I mentioned this like in the last show or a couple times ago. It sort of just goes in little waves all through the season where it's, okay, now we need to start playing good again. Then, okay, we have a little slump. So for me, I'm not that concerned about taking St. Louis here, considering they're a home dog. They're a good team. Yes, they're missing Tarasenko, but their defensive numbers are still so much better than Tampa's. I mean, I talked about in the article, Vasilevsky, he is not in the top 30 goalies in any key stat. I don't have, where's my article? Whatever. Read the article.
He's been far from stellar. I could see with my, just watching as many games as I do nightly, and Tampa games especially. I watch the Winnipeg game. It's like Tampa's playing really good. They're taking the play to Winnipeg. Winnipeg comes down 1 or 2 chances, bing, bang, boom, it's in the net. I mean, they need a little bit better from Vasilevsky. Hasn't been horrible, but he's been down a little bit from where he was last year.
So, he's 43rd in save percentage, 39th in goals against, 35th in quality starts, and 31st in goalie point shares. And even in his last 3 wins, he's got a 90 save percentage, an 87 save percentage, and an 88 save percentage. And that's with 2 wins. So, yes, the Blues are generally considered a slow team in the league. But when they do play well, last year we saw it perfectly. In both the Tampa-St. Louis games, when St. Louis came to play, it was during their hot streak in February and March. St. Louis went into Tampa, won a 1-0 overtime game, and they won 4-3 at home, 6 weeks later. St. Louis is capable of beating Tampa. Get it in your head that Tampa is not a perfect team. They're far from a shutdown team on the back end. Vasilevsky is not a Gibson where he can just. I mean, he's a good goalie, but he's not the type of goalie that is stealing games for the Lightning frequently. Tampa wants to have a high scoring game. I might consider taking the over here as well today, but for me, the best play on this game is the favored Blues by my model, and they're at a home dog price. So I took them at plus 106. I think let me pull up the SBR odds page.
Still can get pretty close to that, plus 105.
Yeah,
plus 108 at Chris. Actually, it can get even better than 106 right now. Yeah.
BetOnline has plus 112. I think plus 110 is kind of where it'll sit for most of the day. I don't think it'll go higher than that, and I don't see it going below plus 100. I think that sort of range is reasonable. If it does go up above plus 110, probably be concerned that maybe there's something we're not seeing here. But for me, the home team off a 3-game losing streak against a sloppy defensive Tampa team who has issues with motivation some nights, issues with blocking shots, issues with Vasilevsky. Not, it's not his issue. It's how the team plays in front of him as well. But I'm very happy to take what I see still as, a top 5 or 6 team in the league against a team that hasn't got there yet this season in the Bolts.
In a spot where you would think the Blues bring focus, bring intensity off 3 straight losses.
Yeah.
And St. Louis, again, you're not going to see them as a home underdog very often. Yeah, and I wish you the best with it. I'm totally off this game. Personally, for me, this is 2 teams that Tampa Bay is starting to get their act together, but you're right. They're doing it mostly because they're scoring a lot. They're doing it more. They're winning these games lately that they have. Rangers, the 2 games against Buffalo, because they're scoring a lot. They still got to.
Well, 7-6 against the Devils. I mean, what is that? And I mean, they were outplayed. Anyway, we're at 20 minutes here, and sorry guys for the long show.
That's
today.
Okay. Yep.
We enjoyed getting into these games. It's an exciting day to have a full 13 game card. So hope that's all right with you guys.
Yeah, no problem. It was a little longer. We usually like to keep it to 15 minutes. We really try to. But that Islander game was a good discussion game.
Yeah.
And Adam likes St. Louis here, plus 106 against Tampa Bay. And my play for this Tuesday card, as we're about to wrap up the show, New York Islanders, plus 115 against Pittsburgh. I believe we had a 2-0 sweep, Adam and I, on Saturday in our last video. See if we can go for another 2-0 sweep tonight with our plays of the day. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. We'll be back on Thursday, 10:15 a.m. Eastern, for our next SBR NHL double play video. For Adam Boothe, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Good luck on the ice, and we'll see you again on Thursday.